Hello, welcome to the Bella, Infidelity Stories channel, where we present authentic narratives filled with surprising turns. If you found the video enjoyable, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. It truly contributes to the growth of our channel. Now, let's immerse ourselves in the narrative. It's challenging to identify the precise moment when my life veered into the unforeseen. Perhaps it was during those late nights, surrounded by a mountain of spreadsheets and a flood of client emails, that I truly realized my situation. Perhaps it was the moment I got that message from my former partner. The individual who had deceived me prior to our wedding, fracturing all that we had created together. In any case, I found myself in the position I hold today. At 30, navigating life alone, I find myself grappling with a reality that frequently seems to elude my grasp. I have been employed at this company for several years now. It's a rewarding position, one I put in a lot of effort to achieve. A position that many aspire to attain. Consistent, lucrative, with opportunities for advancement. However, to be truthful, it doesn't spark my enthusiasm. It's not what I love most, it's merely a means to an end that supports my ability to pursue what truly makes me happy. Strength training. Following all that transpired with my former partner, I immersed myself in fitness. I once believed it was a means to retaliate, a way to demonstrate what she had given up. However, as time progressed, bodybuilding evolved into something greater. It transformed into my sanctuary, my ritual, my liberation. I began to challenge myself more intensely, attaining outcomes that astonished even the most seasoned gym-goers. The dedication, the time invested in training, the meticulous nutrition. The effort was worth it, and for the first time in ages, I felt a sense of pride in myself. Yet, life often has a knack for presenting unexpected challenges at the most unforeseen moments. One evening, following an especially intense training session, I felt completely exhausted yet chose to record a quick video. I had begun this practice consistently, monitoring my development and observing the changes in my appearance from one week to the next. I wasn't doing it for anyone else, yet there was something appealing about the notion of maintaining that visual record. A reminder of the journey I've taken. There I stood, gazing into the mirror of my small apartment, subtly flexing to showcase the muscles I had diligently sculpted. I acted without hesitation. I was indifferent to the lighting or the overall polish of the appearance. It was simply me, my strength, and the footage. Upon completing my task, I immediately reached for my phone. I had already assured my friend, Mark, that I would share the video with him for his feedback. I had been sharing my progress with him for weeks, and I felt it was finally time for him to witness the results in person. I tapped on my phone, accessed our conversation, and pressed send. The video was uploaded, and I let out a breath of relief. Unbeknownst to me, I was on the verge of making a significant error. Recently, I collaborated with Michelle, who happens to be my boss's wife, on a project. We had traded a handful of messages regarding a proposal I had sent her, and our dialogue had been somewhat more regular than typical. Her name had just appeared in my recent messages, and in my fatigued state, I mindlessly clicked on it instead of Mark's. It wasn't until a few minutes later that I truly grasped what I had done. As I lounged on the couch, aimlessly flicking through social media, my phone suddenly vibrated. I cast a fleeting look at the screen. A message arrived from Michelle. As I awaited the continuation, I found myself paralyzed. I was at a loss for what to do next. I gazed at the message, time stretching endlessly before me. What is she referring to? Section 2. I swiftly initiated the dialogue. My stomach dropped as I caught sight of the video I had just sent. My heart raced as the weight of my error dawned on me. I had just shared a video of myself, shirtless, showcasing my physique in front of a mirror. A droplet of perspiration gathered on my brow. I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, unsure whether to find humor in the situation or succumb to a sense of dread. I found myself at a loss for words. It was a genuine error, yet the very last person I wished to witness a video like that was Michelle. Certainly, she held the position of my boss's wife, yet she was undeniably a woman who demanded respect. She exuded beauty, fitness, and professionalism. I hoped she wouldn't perceive me as odd or, even more concerning, unprofessional. I swiftly crafted a response, my hands trembling just a bit. I apologize, that message wasn't intended for you. That was intended for a friend. I apologize for the error. I pressed send and set my phone aside, wishing that would conclude the matter. I found myself unready for the unfolding events that followed. Moments later, my phone vibrated once more. There's no need for concern, David. I'm not upset, but I would really appreciate the chance to see the rest of it at some point. When will part 2 be available? My mind was whirling. What was happening? Was she being playful with me? This transcended mere professionalism. It was the wife of my boss. I swiftly contemplated my next words. I couldn't simply overlook it, yet I also didn't wish to promote anything unsuitable. I took a brief moment to gather my thoughts before crafting a reply. I sincerely apologize for any misunderstanding. That was certainly not meant for you. It's merely a video I shared with my friend to get their thoughts. I ought to have exercised greater caution. I pressed send, wishing that would bring closure to the matter. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was far more complex. That marked the beginning of everything. One unintended message, one fleeting lapse in attention, and everything transformed. Uncertainty loomed over me as I pondered the direction this peculiar dialogue with Michelle might take. As I settled into bed that night, gazing up at the ceiling, a single thought reverberated through my mind. How did I find myself in this situation? The following morning, I awoke with the sensation of having been struck by a vehicle. The phone rested on the nightstand, and I found myself gazing at it for a moment, filled with apprehension at the thought of checking my messages. The conversation I had with Michelle last night lingered in my thoughts, echoing like a familiar refrain. Her words lingered in my mind, the peculiar invitation hidden within her reply. I would be eager to view the remainder of it at some point. When will part 2 be available? What was she trying to convey with that? Was I overanalyzing it? With a steadying inhale, I extended my hand toward my phone. A new message from Michelle illuminated the screen. My heart raced with excitement. Hello, David. I'd like to clarify what happened last night. I trust you found it manageable. I found it quite intriguing. So, I was wondering if you might be available this afternoon. I have a topic I would like to bring up for discussion. I believe our conversation would flow more naturally face to face. Would it be possible for us to gather at 3 p.m.? I gazed at the message, lost in thought for what felt like an eternity. Thoughts were swirling in my head. A part of me wished to dismiss it, to act as if nothing had occurred, yet another part of me felt a tug of curiosity. Despite knowing I should dismiss the thought, I found myself unable to resist it. I found myself captivated by the unusual blend of professionalism and an underlying intimacy that had woven its way into our dialogue. I attempted to persuade myself that it was merely an error. I had never really thought of Michelle in that manner before. She was the spouse of my superior. She possessed age, success, and beauty, yet I had never considered her in a romantic light. Only at this moment. After a brief pause, I chose to reply. Hello, Michelle. I'm absolutely available around that time. I'm uncertain about the details, but I'll make sure to attend. I found myself uncertain about what I had consented to, yet I thought it wise to gather and attempt to resolve any misunderstandings. If she perceived my behavior regarding the video as unprofessional or uncomfortable, it was essential to confront the issue. Perhaps, at the very least, we could move forward and act as if it never occurred. The remainder of the day seemed to stretch endlessly. I found it difficult to concentrate at work. The impending meeting occupied my mind entirely. I found myself going over the messages repeatedly, attempting to decipher Michelle's true intentions. Was it merely curiosity, or was she attempting to transform this into something deeper? I was completely in the dark, and to be honest, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. I was hesitant to complicate matters further or end up in a predicament from which I couldn't escape. The last thing I wanted was to find myself caught up in a situation involving my boss's wife. Yet, my intrigue continued to draw me closer. At 2:45, I slipped on my jacket and stepped outside. I made my way to the cafe she had recommended. The location was serene, slightly removed from the hustle and bustle, hidden from the more crowded areas of the town. It was my first time there, and it seemed like an unusual decision, particularly for someone like Michelle, who could have effortlessly opted for a more refined location. However, it didn't cross my mind significantly until I got there. I pulled into the parking space and made my way inside. The ambience was warm and relaxed, a striking departure from the formal corporate gatherings I was accustomed to. I noticed Michelle right away. She occupied a corner booth, her demeanor at ease, suggesting that this gathering was far from extraordinary. Her smile brightened as I entered, and she gestured for me to take a seat opposite her. "David, I'm truly delighted you made it," she said, her tone rich with warmth and welcome. I took a seat, striving to maintain my calm. "Certainly," I responded, even though I was completely in the dark about what would unfold next. The dialogue began in a perfectly ordinary manner. We discussed my job, the recent project I was managing, the advancements I had achieved, and the approaching deadlines. It was the sort of casual conversation I was familiar with. As we conversed, I observed that Michelle appeared increasingly involved. She was fully engaged in our conversation, nodding along and holding eye contact just a bit longer than normal. It was unusual for her to show such personal interest in the details of my daily work. And that's when it dawned on me this had nothing to do with work whatsoever. Gradually, she adjusted her position in the chair, and the atmosphere of the discussion transformed. It grew deeper. "David, I must speak candidly with you," she started, her voice dropping a notch. "Last night took me by surprise. However, it's not quite as you may imagine." She halted, observing my response. Typically, I refrain from reaching out to others beyond work hours. "I've been reflecting on you and our conversation." I found myself rendered speechless. Thoughts were swirling in my head once more. What was she expressing? Was there a hidden meaning in her words? Could this have been nothing more than a strange prank? Or was I truly at risk of descending into an uncomfortable professional predicament? "David, I find you to be quite a fascinating individual." She pressed on, her eyes locked onto mine. "I just wanted to express my admiration for your commitment. Your presence radiates a certain vitality. It's invigorating." A wave of warmth enveloped me, coursing through every inch of my being. The phrases she uttered felt more profound than mere flattery. They carried an additional weight. "Your message is unclear to me." I spoke suddenly, my throat parched. "However, if the video makes you uneasy, She interrupted me softly. "That's not quite right. I feel at ease. Indeed, I find it quite fascinating." I found it hard to catch my breath. What was her point? What was her intention behind using the word intriguing? Was this an examination? A snare? "I've been pondering your presence for some time now," she remarked, inclining her body just a bit closer. "I believe a more personal conversation would be advantageous for both of us. I would love the opportunity to meet up again, away from the office setting." The quiet lingered between us, heavy and charged. Thoughts whirled in my head, yet the words remained trapped within me. "Do you find this intriguing?" she inquired, her voice scarcely rising above a murmur. I lingered in silence, grappling with the right words to express myself. What was her proposal to me? What was I stepping into? I lingered in that moment, time stretching endlessly as my thoughts surged with unanswerable questions. Michelle's words lingered in the atmosphere, dense and suffocating, leaving me no way to evade their grasp. "Do you have an interest in this?" Her question was posed with such calmness and a sense of reality, yet I couldn't shake off the heaviness it carried. Uncertainty enveloped me, blurring the lines between reality and a vivid dream, leaving me feeling ensnared in a situation I wasn't prepared to face. I gazed at my hands, attempting to gather my thoughts. What was I meant to respond to that? Indeed? Absolutely not. Neither response resonated. I'm uncertain. I finally spoke, my voice barely a whisper. I found myself questioning the very reality of the situation unfolding before me. Michelle, the boss's wife, was seated opposite me, inquiring about my interest in her in a manner that was decidedly unprofessional. It felt like a dream. I get it if you're feeling a bit lost, David. Michelle said, her voice now softer, almost tender. This may come as a surprise, yet I believe it's an issue we cannot overlook. At times, we discover ourselves captivated by individuals we never anticipated. She halted, casting me a glance filled with understanding. You're quite insightful, David, and it's clear you've experienced a great deal. Life often takes unexpected turns, and at times, we must seek out something unique to reignite our sense of vitality. Her words struck me with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. She was referring to something deeper than the video or a mere casual encounter. Her words held a profound depth, striking a chord within me. A fragment of my being, still aching from the remnants of my shattered engagement, yearned to lend an ear. I've been deeply immersed in the gym, in bodybuilding, and in the facade of being okay when, in truth, I wasn't. Perhaps this was my way out. Perhaps this could be the spark that reignites my sense of vitality, just as she mentioned. Yet, there existed another facet of my being, the one that brought to mind her true identity, the spouse of my superior. This was far more than a mere flirtation. This situation was perilous, and despite the allure of recklessness, I understood the importance of maintaining my composure. You're in a committed relationship, and I'm just navigating my own journey. She gazed at me, her demeanor warming as she inched a bit nearer. I understand, and I'm not requesting you to make any choices at this moment. What I seek is simply a moment, an opportunity to explore the possibilities ahead. Take your time. My heart raced within me, and a heavy knot twisted in my stomach. I realized I ought to turn and leave at that very moment. I understood the risks of allowing this to escalate, of letting her draw me deeper, yet I was acutely aware that I stood at a pivotal moment in my life. I find myself trapped in a haze of shattered aspirations and solitude, diverting my attention to my physical change rather than confronting the deeper turmoil within. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was my opportunity to experience something distinct, something fresh. I can't make any guarantees, I finally admitted, my voice soft, almost a whisper. However, I am open to another meeting. Let's explore the possibilities ahead. Michelle smiled, and at that moment, the atmosphere in the room began to lighten for the first time since my arrival. Thank you for that, David, she said gently. Rest assured, regardless of the circumstances, we will proceed at a measured pace. There's no need for concern at all. I nodded, yet my thoughts swirled in a tempest of uncertainty and clashing feelings. I rose to depart, and as I stepped out of the cafe, an unsettling sense lingered that I was on the brink of a significant error. Yet, there was an unusual tug within me, a fascination I found impossible to dismiss. Michelle wasn't merely presenting me with something tangible, she was extending a chance to break free from the monotony, a way to liberate myself from the heartache I'd been shouldering since the separation. And a part of me craved that freedom. As I navigated the road home, the ideas racing through my mind grew increasingly chaotic. Is it truly worth meeting her again? Was this a poor decision? I was at a loss. Yet, one thing was clear, I was already too entrenched to withdraw at this point. In the days that followed, my mind was consumed by thoughts of Michelle and that meeting. The allure extended beyond mere physical attraction. Her gaze held a certain depth, and her words wrapped around me, making me feel like I was more than just a cog in the machine. She looked at me, truly looked at me, in a manner that no one had in ages. I realized it was essential to ponder this matter with greater deliberation. Yet, I found it impossible to shake the feeling that what we shared was truly unique. The bond that had ignited between us was undeniable. The inquiry posed was, what actions would I take in response? I promised myself I would be patient. I approached things at a measured pace. Yet, I was acutely aware that when our eyes met once more, restraint might slip through my fingers. The allure of danger, the shroud of secrecy, was beginning to captivate me. Perhaps, just perhaps, that was what rendered it so alluring. The subsequent days unfolded in a haze of doubt. The lingering sensation of what transpired with Michelle was impossible to ignore. We had made plans to reconvene, yet as the time drew nearer, my confidence began to waver. Was I truly prepared to plunge into this? Was I prepared to gamble it all? What about my career, my standing, and the existence I had created? Just for a brief moment of thrill, a temporary reprieve from my history? I dedicated extra hours at the gym, channeling my energy into physical activity to drown out the relentless questions echoing in my thoughts. My focus was entirely consumed by that one thing. With each weight I hoisted, as the strain of my muscles ignited a fire within, my thoughts were consumed by Michelle. I was uncertain whether it was merely physical attraction or if there was something more profound at play, something beyond my current understanding. Yet, I was certain that our paths must cross once more. I needed to understand the direction of this journey. The day of our second meeting dawned, and I stood before the mirror, contemplating my choice of attire. I aimed to appear polished, yet not overly enthusiastic. I aimed to avoid the impression of losing myself in something beyond my grasp, yet I also wanted to convey my genuine interest. I opted for a classic black shirt paired with jeans, aiming to achieve that perfect blend of laid back and polished. As I stepped into the cafe, I could feel my heart racing in my chest. I hadn't felt this kind of anxiety in ages, not since my relationship ended. And that was an entirely different sort of anxiety, one steeped in fear and pain. Yet, this seemed distinct. The thrill was nearly intoxicating, despite my awareness of the risks involved. When I entered, Michelle was already present, seated at a table towards the rear. She appeared breathtaking, as she always does. Clad in a modest yet sophisticated black dress, she appeared as though she had emerged from a surreal reverie. Just her presence was sufficient to leave me feeling somewhat overwhelmed. Doubt lingered in my mind about my readiness for this moment, yet the path ahead offered no retreat. David, she welcomed me, her smile radiating warmth and charm. She appeared completely at ease. She appeared entirely relaxed, as though this was merely another routine gathering. Perhaps for her it was just that, but for me, it seemed like the dawn of something that could transform everything. "Hello," I responded, mustering a smile as I took my seat opposite her. I attempted to maintain a calm tone, yet the tightness in my chest was undeniable. "How have you been faring?" She reclined in her chair, her gaze fixed intently on me. "I've been well. Occupied, naturally. You know how it goes," she chuckled. "Today, I'm simply grateful that we had the chance to connect." I nodded, yet the words seemed devoid of substance. I didn't come here for casual conversation. I found myself drawn to her, an irresistible force that felt beyond my grasp. I expressed my happiness about our meeting, my voice softer than normal. I'd been reflecting on all that transpired during our last encounter. Her eyes glistened with warmth as she leaned in closer, her voice lowering to a more personal whisper. "I understand this is challenging, David, but I want to assure you that I'm not requesting anything that makes you uneasy. I simply wish to delve into this, whatever it may be. Take your time." I felt the urge to express my anxiety, to admit my uncertainty about managing this situation, and to share that I was beginning to feel overwhelmed. Yet, I discovered that I was nodding in agreement. "I understand where you're coming from, but I must be truthful, Michelle. I find myself uncertain about the direction of this journey." She smiled, her lips curling in a manner that was simultaneously comforting and disconcerting. "That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine not to have all the answers at this moment. Let's proceed gradually and discover what unfolds along the way. Yet, I must admit that you captivate my interest, David. I sense that you find me intriguing as well. I took a deep breath, the silence thick with unspoken thoughts. She was indeed correct, without a doubt. I found myself captivated, perhaps more than I was willing to acknowledge. Yet, I felt a sense of fear as well. Fearful of its implications. Fearful of the outcomes. Fearful of what I could be discarding. Yet, isn't life fundamentally about embracing risks? I had previously ventured so much. My connection, my faith in others. Perhaps this was simply another chance I needed to embrace. Or perhaps I had simply grown weary of exercising restraint. Of being the person who consistently met expectations. Perhaps I yearned for a new sensation. Something genuine. I believe we should explore where this leads us. I spoke, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. The man speaking was unfamiliar to me. He exuded confidence, radiating self-assurance. Yet deep down, I was far from certain. Michelle beamed. Her eyes glimmered with a blend of anticipation. And there was another element that eluded my grasp. It's wonderful to hear that, David. I believe this has the potential to be truly remarkable. And just like that, the boundary between right and wrong. The lines between the professional and the personal appeared to fade. I found myself uncertain about the direction this was taking. Yet, there was one certainty I held close. I found myself entangled beyond the point of no return. The evening unfolded like any other. Yet everything seemed burdensome. The time I had been dreading had finally arrived. Following weeks filled with clandestine gatherings, furtive looks, and intimate moments shared solely between Michelle and me. It felt as though we stood at a pivotal junction. However, on this occasion, it was not merely a light conversation or an unintentional blunder. This was truly something genuine. A catalyst for transformation. I anticipated her telling me to cease. To conclude matters. To step away from what we had been engaged in. From the very start, it was a misstep. I reminded myself. I had persuaded myself that this was the conclusion of the journey. Upon my arrival at her home, as she invited me to take a seat on the couch, an unmistakable tension hung in the atmosphere. A fresh spark glimmered in her gaze. It was an experience unlike any I had encountered previously. David, she murmured, her tone calm yet laced with an unidentifiable feeling. I've been reflecting deeply on our relationship. Reflecting on all that has transpired between us in recent weeks. I remained in my seat, pondering the thoughts swirling in her mind. Indeed, I inquired, my tone revealing a trace of apprehension. I was completely in the dark about the direction this dialogue was taking. Yet, I was preparing for the inevitable challenges ahead. She couldn't shake the thoughts of you from her mind. The words flow more effortlessly now. This outcome was never my intention, yet here we are. Now, I can no longer act as if everything remains the same. I'm done with the facade. My heart raced within me. I sensed we were approaching a point of no return. However, she uttered a remark that took me completely by surprise. I believe it's time for us to go, Michelle stated, her gaze fixed on me, unwavering and resolute. Depart from the nation. Abandon all that you know. Let's begin anew, David. We can unite as one. There's no need for us to conceal ourselves any longer. I'm prepared to take that plunge. Are you? I was utterly astonished. This was not a mere suggestion. She wasn't seeking a mere weekend retreat or a trivial diversion. She was discussing the possibility of departing from the life we had created together. Our careers, our companions, all that surrounds us. And fading into the distance. The idea of escaping with her, of abandoning the repercussions, felt exhilarating yet daunting simultaneously. Thoughts surged through my mind. The sheer practicality of it all struck me with an unexpected force. Is it truly possible for me? Could I abandon all that I once held dear for this hidden love affair? Is this for Michelle? Is it even feasible? Uncertainty settled in as I found myself without the answers to those questions. However, I began to reflect on my own experiences. My world was completely upended following the betrayal of my ex-girlfriend. The manner in which I had immersed myself in bodybuilding. I immersed myself in my tasks as a means to avoid the hurt. I had everything to gain. Only this existence of monotony and average days. Michelle, in contrast, possessed it all. She lived a life in the United States. A household. A profession. She was ready to sacrifice everything for us. And for some reason, I found myself unable to refuse that. She was presenting me with an opportunity to break free from the darkness. To craft something original alongside her. Far from all that constrained us. As the minutes ticked by, the gravity of the choice began to settle heavily upon me. Is this truly what I desired? I gazed at her, the woman who had turned into my hidden fascination, and experienced a blend of thrill and trepidation. She had always exuded an air of calm confidence, unwavering in her self-assurance. Yet, in that instant, I perceived something entirely different. Openness. She was embracing a significant gamble, and I found myself in awe of her courage. At last, I exhaled and uttered the phrases I never imagined I would speak. Very well. Let's get started. It's time for us to go. Shall we venture to a different place? Let us unite. And let go of all that surrounds you. Michelle's expression brightened, her eyes sparkling with a mix of relief and exhilaration. As her fingers brushed against mine, an exhilarating surge coursed through my body. I knew you'd say yes, she whispered, her voice gentle yet assured. We are capable of achieving this. We will find joy. Only the two of us. In an instant, everything shifted for us. The point of no return had been reached. The decision was final. We planned to leave the United States behind, seek a new life, and begin anew together. In the following days, we dedicated our time to crafting our plans. I secured legal assistance to manage the details, making sure we could depart discreetly. Michelle took care of everything else, the arrangements, the documents, and the confidentiality. Everything was unfolding at a rapid pace, yet it somehow resonated perfectly. Each step we took felt as if we were advancing towards something essential to our very existence. We selected a quaint little town abroad, distant from all that is familiar and known. It marked a new beginning, a space where we could create something genuine. No longer would there be any concealment, no further masquerading. We would find ourselves united, free from the repercussions of our decisions. On the eve of our departure, I found myself in my apartment, contemplating all that had transpired. A fragment of my being remained fearful, still filled with doubt. Yet, a part of me experienced a sense of liberation, as if I were at last seizing the reins of my own fate. As I stepped into the airport the following day, with Michelle by my side, I felt an undeniable sense of finality. We had reached our conclusion, and now we were ready to dive in. Regardless of the outcome, we were on the brink of shaping our own destiny, one that would truly belong to us. As the aircraft ascended and the city's lights dwindled into the horizon, a smile crept across my face. No matter what the future held, I was prepared, and for the first time in ages, I sensed that I was precisely where I belonged.